The night my marriage hit the kill switch did not start with shouting. It started with a suitcase and a smile. At 11:30 on a cold Thursday, I found my wife Samantha humming while she packed a Louis Vuitton. Designer blouses, silk scarves, jewelry I had bought over 2 decades, folded like she was getting ready for a beach weekend. "Ethan," she said without looking up, "I need space. A trial separation." I leaned on the bedroom doorway and tasted the last of the beer I had been nursing downstairs. 22 years, and she delivered a breakup like she was reading a takeout order. "Done," I said. She finally met my eyes, her highlighted hair catching the lamplight. "Just like that. Just like that." I took a long pull. Nothing says marriage like a Google Calendar invite for your own breakup. Her mouth tightened. She always hated my sarcasm. "You are not fun anymore, Ethan. You never want to go anywhere, never want to do anything. I feel like I am dying in this house." "Fun is expensive," I said. "I cut the budget." She rolled her eyes and kept packing. Every item screamed money. My money, earned with grease under my fingernails at Bishop's Auto Repair. "Where are you going?" I asked, though I already knew. "Courtney is letting me use her guest room until I figure things out." Courtney, best friend since college, loud about her own divorce settlement and freedom, always posting expensive dinners and weekend getaways, always telling Samantha to live her best life. "How convenient," I said. The zipper ripped shut with more force than necessary. "I already talked to a lawyer. This does not have to be ugly, Ethan. We can be civilized." "Absolutely civilized," I said. "I will start by freezing the joint accounts in the morning. Would not want unauthorized expenses during our civilized separation." Her face drained. "You cannot do that. Watch me. I will also cancel your health insurance, pull the credit cards, and change every password. You wanted independence. Consider this your crash course." "You are being petty. I am being practical. You asked for space. I am giving you a security perimeter." A horn sounded outside. Through the window, I saw Courtney's white BMW idling in our driveway, exhaust fogging in the cold night air. "That is my ride," Samantha said, grabbing her purse. "Of course it is." She paused at the door. "I am not the villain here, Ethan. We just grew apart." "Sure we did." After she left, I poured 3 fingers of bourbon and sat at the desk. Our shared computer was still logged into cloud storage. People who plan to leave for space often forget to cover their digital tracks. Buried 3 folders deep, I found a stash titled New Beginnings. Explicit texts. Hotel receipts from places I had never set foot. Restaurant bills I had never eaten. A document labeled trip list with dates, locations, and a name that turned my blood to ice. Chase Lawson. The tech golden boy who moved to town 6 months ago, bought the old Morrison place on the water, and rebuilt it as a glass box. The guy who drove a Tesla and wore designer jeans to the hardware store. I scrolled the messages, the bourbon burning less than the words. "Cannot wait to see you tonight, baby. Ethan is working late again, right? No one has ever made me feel like this. When we are in California, it will be just us. No more pretending." California. They were planning to move there together. I opened the location app on my phone. Samantha was still on our family plan, and her location services were still on. The little blue dot sat at 47 Ocean View Drive. Chase's address. I raised my glass to the empty house. Let the games begin. Friday arrived with a bitter wind that cut through a jacket and into bone. At 7 a.m., I was under the hood of a 1998 Camaro when Nick Ramirez walked into the bay with 2 coffees and a grin. "You look rough, boss," he said, handing me a cup. 8 years on my crew since leaving the Marines, good with engines, better at keeping quiet. "Samantha moved out last night," I said, taking the coffee. "No kidding. I thought you two were solid." "So did I." I drank. "Turns out she has been test driving a newer model." He whistled low. "What are you going to do?" "I am going to audit her new life." I pulled out my phone and opened the vehicle tracker. Every car that came through my shop left safer, GPS installed for security, as I like to say. I had added one to Samantha's Lexus 2 years ago, after she swore someone was following her. "She wants independence," I said, watching the little red dot that marked Samantha's Lexus on my phone. "I'm going to help her experience it." Nick Ramirez leaned in over the workbench. "She is at that fancy coffee place downtown." "Not for long." I opened the control panel on the tracker and tapped remote disable. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed. "Samantha, my car will not start." I am stranded at anchor and grind. Can you come help? I turned the screen so Nick could see. Oops. Jesus, Ethan, he said, half a grin and half a wince. You are ice cold. I am only warming up. By noon the story ran through Millbrook, Maine like a brush fire. Population 8,400 means one truth. Everybody knows everybody's business by dinner time. I was eating meatloaf at the Mariner's Light when Eleanor Whitaker slid into my booth without asking. 73 years old, born on Maple Street, and a walking archive of every affair and family feud in 3 generations. She lives 2 doors down from Chase Lawson. Heard about you and Samantha, she said, stirring 2 sugars into her tea. Shame about marriage these days. These things happen, I said. Saw her yesterday, she added. Not with you. Looked expensive. I cut into the meatloaf. Did you now? Tall fellow, one of those electric cars. They were holding hands on his deck. Middle of the afternoon. Bold as brass. She leaned closer. You know what I think? Some folks forget where they come from. Get too big for their britches. Wise words, I said. She patted my knuckles. You are a good man, Ethan Bishop. Do not let anyone tell you different. After lunch, I went back to the shop and got practical. I canceled Samantha's gym membership. I canceled her salon package. I turned off the streaming services. Each cancellation spat an automated email to her phone. By 3 o'clock, my phone would not stop buzzing. What is wrong with you? This is harassment. I am calling my lawyer. You cannot do this. I replied to the last one. I can. You wanted new experiences. Consider this a master class in inconvenience. Across the bay, Nick looked up from the small block he was rebuilding. You are enjoying this too much. She asked for space, I said. I am giving her room to grow. Near dusk, I took a slow drive past Chase's place on Ocean View Drive. His Tesla sat in the driveway beside Samantha's Lexus, which had, by then, mysteriously started again after I toggled the system back on. I parked down the block and raised a pair of binoculars. The house was all glass and steel, like a museum exhibit. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I saw them moving through a bright kitchen. Samantha wore a red dress I had never seen. Chase poured wine. They looked relaxed, like bills and vows were problems that belonged to other people. I popped the latch on my toolbox and took out a small valve tool. Those tires were pricey, more than most folks earn in a week. I did not slash them. I just bled the air, slow and even. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I tucked a note under the wiper. Nice ride. Shame about the company. Saturday was Millbrook's Harvest Festival, and Main Street was shut down end to end. Booths sold apple cider, maple candy, and hand-knit scarves. The air smelled like wood smoke and fried dough. I had planned to skip it, but Nick talked me into going. You cannot hide in the garage forever, he said. Half the town is talking anyway. Better they see your face than write your story for you. He was right. In a small town, perception is currency. If I stayed home, I would look broken or guilty. Better to walk Main Street like I own my name. I was buying a hot cup of cider from the Methodist booth when I saw them. Samantha stood near the face-painting station in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater. Courtney was beside her, both of them laughing over something on Courtney's phone. They were staging it, carefree, happy, thriving in a brand-new single life. I crossed the street. Ladies, I said, tipping an imaginary cap. Courtney's smile flickered off. Samantha lifted her chin. Ethan, I am surprised to see you. Would not miss it, I said. Community matters. Do you not think so? Some people value community more than others, Courtney said, giving me a sharp look. True, I said. Some people value loyalty, commitment, honesty. I shrugged. Others have different priorities. Color rose in Samantha's cheeks. We are not doing this here. Doing what? Talking like civilized adults? I thought that was the plan. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. Speaking of civilized, I said, I found a few things you left behind. Thought you might want them back. I handed the envelope to Courtney. She opened it on reflex. Her eyes went wide at the printed screenshots, texts, hotel receipts, restaurant bills. Oh my God, she said, loud enough to carry. Samantha, is this? Give me that. Samantha snatched the envelope, but the sound had already drawn eyes. A small ring of neighbors paused with their cider and their paper plates. You could feel the question gather in the air. I did not raise my voice. I did not point. I just let the paper speak for itself, and I let the crowd do the math. Everything all right over here? Asked Jim Harkins, who runs the hardware store on Main. Could not be better, I said with a friendly smile. Just returning some lost property. That was when Chase Lawson appeared, likely tired of waiting in the car. He looked like he had stepped out of a catalog spread. Perfect hair, sharp jacket, that smooth, confident grin that dimmed when he noticed how many neighbors were watching. Samantha, what is happening? He asked. Chase Lawson, I said, holding out my hand. Ethan Bishop. I do not believe we have met properly. He hesitated, then shook. His grip was polished and soft, the kind that comes with manicures and not much wrench time. Nice to meet you. Hope you are enjoying Millbrook, I said. Beautiful town. Friendly people. We look out for one another. It seems like a great place, he said. Oh, it is. Very close-knit. Secrets do not stay secret for long. I smiled and added, by the way, how is your car these days? I heard there was a little issue with the tires. His face darkened. That was you. Was what me? A ripple went through the onlookers. Eleanor Whitaker had materialized, and with her came half the town council, a couple of teachers, the librarian, and most of the volunteer fire crew. You could feel the festival tilt toward the commotion. I am a mechanic, I said in a clear voice that carried over the fiddler on the bandstand. If you have car trouble, I am happy to take a look. Fair prices. Straight work. You can ask anyone here. People murmured agreement. I had turned wrenches on half their vehicles and stood behind every repair. Chase glanced around at the ring of faces and seemed to realize the math was not in his favor. We should go, he said to Samantha. Probably wise, I agreed. Oh, and Chase, you might consider getting yourself tested. Samantha has this recurring little. Shut up, Samantha screamed, loud enough to make two toddlers cry. Just shut up, you pathetic, vindictive. She lunged, but her high-heeled boots skated on the damp grass. Her arms pinwheeled and she pitched sideways, straight into the fire department's dunk tank set up for charity. Water exploded over the rim. The crowd howled and clapped as Samantha surfaced, sputtering, hair plastered flat and mascara tracking down her cheeks. Phones were already up. Someone yelled, I got it, like they had landed a fish. Chase rushed in to help, but she shoved him away in rage and humiliation. He lost his footing and went backward into a bright pyramid of pumpkins, burst stems and orange have sliding down the hay bales. And that is why I always buy the insurance, I announced, which only made the laughter grow. By the time they scraped themselves together and hurried off the street, half the festival had captured the scene. By evening, it would be stitched across every social feed in town. I bought a fresh cup of hot cider and found a bench with a view of the sunset. Nick Ramirez dropped beside me 20 minutes later. That was brutal, he said. That was justice, I said. You know it is not over, he added. She is going to come back at you hard. I watched two kids chase each other around the bandstand. I am counting on it. Monday morning brought the counterpunch. I was rolling up the garage bay when a cruiser eased to the curb. Detective Ryan Flanagan stepped out, the same guy who lined up next to me on the offensive line in high school. Good cop, decent heart, not exactly a chess player. Morning, Ethan, he said, wearing that careful face cops put on before they ask tough questions. Morning, Ryan. What brings you by? Got a stack of complaints with your name on them. Harassment, stalking, destruction of property. I wiped my hands on a rag. Is that so? Your wife says you have been following her, tampering with her boyfriend's car, and making threats. My wife and I are separated, Ryan. I shrugged. As for the rest, sounds like someone has an active imagination. Where were you Friday night around 10 o'clock? He asked, flipping open a little notebook. Right here, working late on Henderson's truck. Nick was with me until about 11. We ordered pizza from Tony's around 9:30. There is a receipt on the desk. He jotted notes. Saturday morning. Early. 6 a.m. Home. Asleep. Alone, I said. Unfortunately, since my wife moved out. He paused. Something happened to Chase's car again. All 4 tires slashed. That is terrible, I said. You know, Ryan, I have been thinking about installing neighborhood cameras. A lot of vandalism lately. Maybe I should talk to the other business owners and start a watch. He studied my face. We had played poker together for 15 years. He knew I could hold a straight look until the cards molded to my fingers. Ethan, I have to ask you plain, he said. Did you slash Chase Lawson's tires? No, I said. I did not slash Chase Lawson's tires. That was the truth. I had bled the air on Friday. Someone else had brought a blade on Saturday, probably a local who watched the Dunk Tank show and decided to do their own brand of frontier justice. All right, he said finally. Whatever is happening between you and Samantha, keep it inside the law. I do not want to arrest an old friend. Understood. When he left, I called Nick. We need to talk. He showed up 20 minutes later with coffee and a box of donuts. Cops came by, he asked. Flanagan, I said. Someone slashed Chase's tires Saturday night. Nick raised one eyebrow. And you? I said what was true, I answered. I did not slash a thing. He set a maple bar on a napkin and slid it my way. Then let us keep it that way. We will win this clean. I nodded. The tools on the pegboard gleamed. The base smelled like oil and cold steel. Outside, Millbrook went on with its day, and so did I. It was not you, Nick said, shaking his head. I know because you were at Murphy's until closing. Do you remember? I drove you home. I had actually forgotten that part. After the festival, I went to Murphy's to celebrate my small victory. Half the bar kept sending drinks to my table, everyone wanting to hear the Dunk Tank story one more time. Right, I said. Good alibi. So who do you think did it? Nick asked. Chase is not winning any popularity contests. Rich outsider, takes up with a married local. Half this town would love to take a swing. Maybe the whole thing will solve itself, he added with a crooked grin. I did not believe that. Samantha was too proud and too angry to fade into the background. She would push harder, and I needed to be ready. The next move landed Tuesday afternoon. I was under a Chevy Silverado when my phone rang, unknown number. Bishop's Auto. Mr. Bishop, this is Julie Walters from Millbrook Savings and Loan. I need to talk with you regarding your business account. I slid down my back. What is wrong with it? There has been unusual activity. Large transfers to an account we do not recognize. I think you should come in right away. I was at her desk in 10 minutes. Julie had managed my business account for 8 years. She looked worried and tired, the way bankers look when they are about to ruin your afternoon. Someone accessed your account online, she said, turning the monitor toward me. $5,000 moved out yesterday. Another $3,000 this morning. That is impossible, I said. I am the only person with access. Actually, she said gently, your wife is listed as an authorized user. She has been ever since you opened the account. I had forgotten we set it up that way so Samantha could pay invoices when I was buried in engine work. Can you reverse the transfers? I am trying, she said, fingers flying over keys. But the destination looks like an offshore account. It may take weeks to recover, if we can recover it at all. I stared at the screen while my balance drained away in neat lines. Samantha was swinging for the thing that mattered most, my livelihood. Remove her from the account today, I said. Of course. I will need signatures on a few forms. By the time I got back to the garage, my anger felt like a live wire. This was no longer marriage business. This was open war. I called my attorney. David Parker, I said when he answered. She pulled $8,000 out of my shop account in 2 days. She cannot take from a business account like that, he said. That is embezzlement. Can we press charges? Absolutely. I will file today. And, Ethan, if she is willing to do that, there is likely more coming. Protect yourself. How? Document everything. Every call. Every text. Every bank notice. Every time she contacts you. If this ends up in court, you will need a clean trail. That night, I sat in the quiet house and made a list of what Samantha had taken or damaged. The $8,000 was only the start. Jewelry. Artwork. A few high-dollar furniture pieces that she knew I liked. I logged each item with dates and where it used to sit in the house. Two could play offense. I opened my laptop and drafted a simple, anonymous note to her boss at the marketing firm, Daniel Brooks. I had met him at a couple of holiday events. He struck me as a straight arrow who liked policies and clean lines. You should be aware that one of your employees, Samantha Bishop, has been using company time and resources to conduct an extramarital affair. I have documentation if you're interested. I attached scans of hotel receipts that hit during business hours and screenshots of messages sent from her work phone. Then I hit send. By Wednesday morning, her day started falling apart. I was working through a plate of eggs at Millie's when Courtney blew through the door, face red enough to stop traffic. She spotted me in my usual booth and marched over. You son of a, she hissed, dropping into the seat across from me. What did you do? Good morning, Courtney, I said. Coffee? Samantha got fired yesterday, she snapped. Fired. They said she used company resources for personal business. That is rough, I said, cutting a bite of toast. Unemployment is a hard lane right now. You sent something, did you not? Some kind of proof? I have no idea what you were talking about. This has your fingerprints all over it. I leaned back and let a quiet second hang in the air. Courtney, did you know Samantha was taking money from my business account? She went pale. What? $8,000, I said. Moved to an offshore account. I filed charges this morning. She would not. She did. I set the fork down. So before you come in here and spit names at me, maybe ask yourself what kind of person you have been coaching. Courtney stared at me without blinking, then stood up and walked out without another word. An hour later, my phone rang. You bastard, Samantha said without a hello. You got me fired. I heard about that, I said. It is a shame. I know it was you. Who else would have access to my work emails? Samantha, I think you are confused. I do not have access to your work email. Your boss does. It sounds like he did not like what he saw. I am going to destroy you. You tried that already, I said, and ended the call. I saved her voicemail and the bank notices into a folder named Evidence. The list on my kitchen table kept growing, one neat line at a time. If she wanted a fight measured in paper, I would meet her with paper. It was not me, I told Nick. I know it was not you, he said. You were at Murphy's until closing. Remember? I drove you home. I had actually forgotten that part. After the festival, I wound up at Murphy's to toast my small victory. Half the bar bought me drinks and made me retell the dunk tank story until the jukebox cut out. Good alibi, I said. So who did it? Nick asked. Chase is not exactly Mr. Popular. Rich outsider, running off with a local man's wife. Half this town would take a swing if they thought they could. Maybe the whole mess will sort itself out, he added with a crooked grin. It will not, I said. Samantha is too proud and too angry to fade. She will escalate, and I need to be ready. The next punch landed Tuesday afternoon. I was under a Chevy Silverado when my phone rang from an unknown number. Bishop's Auto. Mr. Bishop, this is Julie Walters at Millbrook Savings and Loan. I need to speak with you about your business account. My stomach tightened. What about it? There has been unusual activity, large withdrawals to an unfamiliar destination. I recommend you come in as soon as possible. I was in her office 10 minutes later. Julie, who had handled my account for 8 years, looked genuinely worried. She turned her monitor toward me. $5,000 moved out yesterday, another $3,000 this morning, she said. The login was authorized. That is impossible. I am the only one with access. She tapped a screen. Your wife is listed as an authorized user. She has been since you opened the account. I had forgotten that I set it up that way so Samantha could pay invoices when I was buried in the bay. Can you reverse the transfers? We are trying, she said, but the funds were swept to an offshore account. It may take weeks, if it is recoverable at all. I watched my balance bleed line by line. Samantha was hitting me where it hurt most, my livelihood. Remove her today, I said. I will sign whatever you put in front of me. By the time I got back to the garage, my hands were steady, but my anger ran hot. This was no longer marriage business. This was a war ledger. I called my attorney. David Parker. She pulled $8,000 out of my shop account. She cannot do that, he said. That is embezzlement. Press charges. I will file today. And Ethan, if she will do this, she may try something bigger. Protect yourself. How? Document everything. Calls, texts, bank alerts, any contact. If this goes to court, paper wins. That evening I sat in the quiet house and made a list. Money from the shop, jewelry, art, a few expensive furniture pieces she knew I liked. I wrote dates and where each item had been. Then I moved to offense. I drafted a short, anonymous email to Daniel Brooks, her boss at the marketing firm. You should know that Samantha Bishop has been using company time and company devices to conduct an extramarital affair. I have documentation if you require it. I attached scans of hotel receipts charged during business hours and screenshots of messages sent from her work phone. I clicked send. By Wednesday, her world started to tilt. I was working through breakfast at Millie's when Courtney stormed in, red-faced, and slid into my booth. You son of a, she hissed. What did you do? Good morning, Courtney. Coffee. Samantha got fired. They said she used company resources for personal business. That is rough, I said. Unemployment is a tough road. You sent something. This has your fingerprints all over it. I leaned back. Courtney, did you know Samantha was stealing from my business account? Her face drained. What are you talking about? $8,000 to an offshore account. I filed charges today. She would not. She did, I said. So before you accuse me of anything, ask yourself what kind of person you have been coaching. She stared at me for a long second, then stood and walked out without a word. An hour later, my phone lit up. You bastard, Samantha said. You got me fired. I heard, I said. That is a shame. I know it was you. Who else could get into my work email? Samantha, your boss could. Sounds like he did not like what he found. I am going to destroy you. You tried that already, I said, and ended the call. That afternoon, Nick came into the garage looking uneasy. Boss, we have a problem. Courtney was here asking about your schedule, your security system, and whether you keep cash in the office. I set the wrench down. She is casing the place. That is what it sounded like. Maybe they planned to break in, I said. Or maybe they wanted to look like I did something to them. Either way, I needed receipts. That night, I mounted more cameras. Obvious ones by the doors. Hidden ones tucked into the rafters and behind a vent. I tied them to motion sensors and phone alerts. If Samantha and Chase came, I wanted the whole show in high definition. On Thursday, they came. At home, my phone buzzed, motion detected. The feed popped up, two figures in dark clothes approaching the garage. The tall one with narrow shoulders was Chase. The shorter one wore a cap pulled low. Blonde hair showed at the back, Samantha. They brought bolt cutters and a crowbar. Chase clipped the door lock, while Samantha kept watch. They slipped inside and moved through the bay with flashlights for 20 minutes. I called Nick. They are here. On my way. By the time he reached me, Chase and Samantha had come back out, climbed into the Tesla, and rolled away. What do you think they did? Nick asked. Let us find out. We went inside. Nothing large was missing, but somebody had pawed through the desk. Drawers were a little off, papers out of order. Then I spotted it, a small bag of white powder tucked behind a toolbox, beside a wrapped bundle of cash that did not belong to me. They are framing me, I said. Make it look like I am dealing. Nick let out a low whistle. That is serious. Anonymous tip. Cops show up. They find the stash. You go out in cuffs. What do? We turn the table, I said. I called Detective Ryan Flanagan. Ryan, it is Ethan. I need to report a break-in at the garage. When? He asked. About an hour ago. I have the whole thing on video. He arrived 20 minutes later with another officer. I played the footage, Chase cutting the lock, Samantha covering, both of them inside, the stash being planted. Good Lord, Ryan said, watching the screen. They tried to set you up. Good thing I upgraded security. He bagged the powder and the cash. This is bad for them. Breaking and entering, planting evidence, conspiracy. They are looking at real time. Do what you have to do, I said. But when police went to Chase's place, it was empty. The Tesla was gone. Neighbors had seen a moving truck earlier. Friday morning, Ryan called. We found the Tesla abandoned at Portland Airport. Looks like they flew out. We do not know where yet. So they are gone for now, I said. This is not over, he said. People like that do not vanish. They come back when you least expect it. I thanked him and hung up. Think he is right? Nick asked from across the bay. I know he is right, I said. Samantha is too proud to stay gone. When? Soon, I said. And when she does, I will be ready. They came back on a Saturday night, 3 weeks later. I had prepared. The garage was wired enough to catch a mouse. Nick and a couple of friends were on text alert. The call came at 11. Eleanor Whitaker, whispering like we were in a spy movie. Ethan, they are back. I saw them pass my porch 10 minutes ago. The electric car and a rental truck. Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. Stay inside and lock the doors. I called Nick, grabbed my keys, and drove. I found them at the marina, trying to load Chase's boat. Yes, the same one I had quietly sabotaged a few weeks earlier, onto a trailer. Samantha and Chase were there with two men I did not recognize. Hired muscle, by the look of them. I parked where they could not see me and called Ryan. They are at the marina, and they brought friends. I am on the way, he said. Do not do anything stupid. I was already walking down the dock. Well, I called. Look what the tide washed back in. Chase spun, dropping a mooring line. Samantha stepped from the cabin, face hard as a door. Ethan, she said. We need to talk. I am listening. One of the big men stepped forward, tattooed forearms, heavy boots, the kind of guy who settled arguments with his knuckles. Maybe you should walk away, friend. Maybe you should mind your own business, I said. He took another step, but Chase lifted a hand. It is all right, Bruno. Ethan and I can have a civilized conversation. About what? I asked. About you dropping the charges, Samantha said. About you signing divorce papers that give me what I deserve. I heard sirens far off, carried thin over the water. I did not look away from Samantha. I kept my voice level, the way a mechanic talks when he already knows what the test light will show. Then let us talk about what anyone here actually deserves, I said, and waited for the blue lights to round the corner of the lot. And what exactly do you think you deserve? I asked. Half of everything, Samantha said. The house, the business, your retirement accounts, all of it. I laughed once. You must be joking. I am not joking, she said. You sign, and we disappear forever. You refuse, and things get very unpleasant for you. Unpleasant how? The second hired man stepped into the dock light. He was smaller than Bruno, but harder in the eyes, with puckered scars across his knuckles. Chase lifted his chin. Accidents happen, Chase said, especially to people who do not know when to quit. Is that a threat? I asked. It is a promise. A siren wailed in the distance and swung closer, blue light beginning to flicker against the water. Chase's face drained. You called the police. I called my friend Detective Ryan Flanagan, I said. He does not travel alone. Bruno looked to Chase. The smaller man cut his eyes toward the parking lot. The confidence drained right out of both of them. You said this would be simple, Bruno growled. It is simple, Samantha snapped. Ethan, call them off. Tell them it was a false alarm. No. Please, she said, voice tight. We can work this out. We already did, I said. You chose Chase. I chose freedom. You stole from me. I filed charges. You tried to frame me. I caught you on camera. Now the night finishes the way it has to. Two cruisers swept into the marina lot. Blue lights jumped across the pilings and skittered over the water. Chase grabbed Samantha's arm. We have to go, he hissed. There was nowhere to run. The dock was a dead end, water on 3 sides and police on the 4th. Ryan came onto the pier with 3 officers, hands on their holsters. Nobody moves, he shouted. Hands where I can see them. Bruno and the other man lifted their hands right away. Professionals know when the count is bad. But Chase panicked. He tried to yank Samantha toward the boat. It will not start, I called. I pulled a few key pieces 2 weeks ago. Hope you are strong swimmers. Chase spun toward me, face twisted. You son of a, he lunged. I had been ready for that. I stepped aside and set my boot out. He caught it, stumbled, and went sliding across the slick dock. The boards were wet with seawater and fish slime. His momentum carried him clean over the edge. The splash boomed against the pilings. Maine water is cold in July. In October it bites to the bone. Chase surfaced gasping. Expensive clothes stuck to him like a second skin. Help! I cannot swim. Samantha looked from me, to Chase thrashing in the dark water, to the officers closing in with cuffs. This is all your fault, she said. No, I said. This is your choice. You chose to cheat. You chose to steal. You chose to come back here and threaten me. I chose not to be the victim. Ryan's team cuffed Bruno and the smaller man first. They went quietly, doing math in their heads about conspiracy, intimidation, and breaking and entering. 2 officers hauled Chase out of the water. He shook like a wet dog, hair plastered to his skull, designer jacket ruined, the fight gone out of him. When the cuffs clicked on Samantha, she met my eyes one last time. I loved you once, she said. I know, I answered. That is what makes it sad. They walked her up the dock. I watched the lights fade as the cruisers rolled out of the lot. Nick Ramirez appeared at my shoulder. He had caught the tail end of the show. So, it is over? It is over, I said. How do you feel? I thought about it. 22 years, ending with handcuffs and a police report. My wife headed for charges, embezzlement, breaking and entering, conspiracy. My house quiet. My bed cold. My future a blank page. Free, I said. I feel free. The next morning I rolled up the bay door like always. Word had already traveled the length of Millbrook. In a small town, news runs faster than a truck with open headers. By noon a dozen customers had stopped by. Some needed work. Some wanted to hear the story straight from me. Eleanor Whitaker brought a casserole and a bottle of whiskey. You did right, Ethan, she said. That woman never deserved you. Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. What will you do now, she asked. I looked around the shop. My tools hung in a clean line. The lift, the smell of oil and metal, The life I built with both hands. Same thing I always do, I said. Fix what is broken. She patted my arm and headed out. That evening I sat on the porch with a beer and watched the sun slide behind Millbrook. Papers would come next. Lawyer meetings. A life to rebuild. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, the air felt light. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is not over. I deleted it and set the phone face down. Some people never learn to quit. I learned something else. The best revenge is not the clever counterpunch. The best revenge is refusing to be destroyed. I finished the beer and went inside. Tomorrow would be another day. There were cars to fix,